cancer. And I wrote the headline. In the place I worked, the editor would circle the mistake with red grease pens and with the tear sheets, except he'd circle the mistake and then he'd write, "God damn it," with big 3-inch letters, and fold it up and leave it on your desk, or Jesus Christ. It was always some profanity. We came to call those things, you come to work and do you have any Valentines on your desk? Right? You don't do that anymore. Here's a little story. I thought about you, I think about you with regard to this story. I have coffee many mornings with some guys my age and older. And I think of you in two ways. One, the point of this story, but also when you're, as a reporter, when you're interviewing people, a lot of interviews are just dumb, and you're just waiting for a hook, something for this person to say that you can actually make a lead out of. So I'm having coffee with these guys, and one guy is talking, and we're talking about Europe, and when we were last in Europe. And so I said to him, when did you first go to Europe? And he said 1945, or 1944. So I said, okay, then wait a second. You don't want to be in Europe in 1944. Come to find out, this guy had never said a word about this in all of the conversations, that he was a navigator on a B-24, 19 years old. And they, by September of 44, the Allies had moved quite a ways toward Germany. And so most of their bomb runs were in the heart of Germany. And they took counter battery fire, they took anti-aircraft fire by then, because the Germans were pulling back, and the only weapons they had left were really anti-aircraft stuff. Anyway, they took some rounds, and it was clear on their return flight they weren't going to make it. And they could see across the channel, but they weren't going to make it, and so they bailed out. 9 guys in a B-24. 7 guys bailed out. It was windy. They bailed out high, so they were scattered all over Holland. And he's coming down. He lands in a farm field, and there's a guy on a phone pole. He figures it's a German communications guy. And the guy's hustling off the pole, and he comes over to my friend, who's now laying in this middle of this agricultural area. And it turns out the guy's with the Dutch underground. So they gather up his chute and all his equipment and take him off to a nearby farmhouse. And he's telling me this story, and I'm dumbstruck by this. Where he spends the rest of the war, from September of 44 to spring of 45, when the Canadians came through Holland and liberated. So I'm fascinated by this guy's remarks. Could you keep in touch with that family that kept you those 6 months? He said, yeah. Every now and then there'd be some communication. Do you ever see him again, I asked. And he said, yes. I went back for a big family gathering some years later. The family gathering was the wedding of the little girl, now a big girl, and the family was all gathered for this wedding. So I'm now really interested in what this guy's saying, because it's an interesting story. But then he said this. He said, I'm standing in the church, and I look up the aisle, and there she is, little girl now, all grown up, pretty as a picture. As she comes down the aisle, he realizes that her lovely wedding dress is made from the silk of his parachute. And so the message is, when I think of you all, your families, the good Lord, this school has given you the silk with which to make whatever you want of your lives. You can use it for better or for worse, for parachutes or wedding dresses. But if the fabric is good, if the values are good, it works in a lot of ways. So good for you. It's been a pleasure for Robin and I to be with you this semester, to listen to you, and to learn from you. Keep in touch. You've got our emails. We're more than anxious to see that you all get a good launch in life. Thanks.